Raffaele de Palma was an Italian-American racing driver, famous for winning the 1915 Indianapolis 500 and becoming one of the most popular and successful racers in the early decades of the 20th century. Born in Biccari, in the Italian region Apulia, De Palma's family emigrated to the United States in 1893, when Raffaele was 11 years old. His father worked in a barber shop in Brooklyn, New York, and had 4 sons. Before focusing on motor racing, Raffaele, now using his anglicized name Ralph, developed an interest in racing bicycles when he was a teenager. He started racing when he was 15 and took his first victory 2 years later at the Vailsboro Velodrome in New Jersey. Cycling became Ralph's passion and started working in a bicycle store. This store would later get a license to sell motorcycles, and that's how Ralph first got involved in motor racing. In 1904, his interest shifted towards cars. He got a job as a track marshal for the first Vanderbilt Cup race. In those days, De Palma was working as a mechanic for Mr. Fred Moskowitz, a car dealer who gave Ralph an opportunity to race one of his Allen Kingston. In one of his first races, Ralph was seriously injured when he crashed his Allen Kingston into a wall. In 1908, De Palma became a Fiat driver and drove a 16-liter Fiat Cyclone. He was comfortably leading the American Grand Prix in Savannah, setting fastest lap after fastest lap, when an oil pump failure forced him to slow down and finish the race in 9th. The win went to his teammate Louis Wagner, and his other teammate Felice Nazzaro finished the race in 3rd. 2 years later, at the same race, he once again encountered technical issues that forced him to retire from the lead of the race with only 2 laps to go. The following year, he finally managed to finish the race 3rd in a Mercedes, in the last American Grand Prix held at Savannah. The same year, he won the first Milwaukee Mile Championship car race. During his years with Fiat, from the end of 1908 to 1911, he traveled around the United States, winning many races, mostly on dirt tracks. In 1909, he won 34 races and established world records, quickly becoming an elite motorsport athlete. De Palma entered the first edition of the Indianapolis 500 in 1911, where he finished 6th overall, driving a simplex, with Charles Burry as riding mechanic. On this occasion, he had led 4 laps. By the end of his career, the number of laps led in the Indy 500 would raise to an impressive 612. Ralph De Palma crossed the ocean to compete in Europe several times, like he did in 1912 to compete in the Grand Prix de l'Automobile de Club de France in Dieppe, but was forced to withdraw from the race. In the same year, Ralph participated in the Indianapolis 500, when one of the most iconic scenes ever to take place at the legendary 2.5-mile track unfolded. After leading 196 laps with a 5-lap lead, a piston rod broke on De Palma's 140 HP Mercedes. Ralph crawled towards the start-finish line to start the penultimate lap at only 20 miles an hour. Eventually, the car was forced to stop on the side of the racetrack. De Palma and his riding mechanic, the Australian Rupert Jeffkins, jumped out of their car and started pushing the 1.3-ton car for the remaining lap, ultimately finishing the race in 11th, with the crowd cheering him on all the way to the finish line. Pictures of De Palma and his grey ghost and his remarkable actions on track quickly spread around the country and the rest of the world. In the history of the Indy 500, only one other driver has led more laps than De Palma. Billy Arnold, in 1930, took the lead of the race on lap 3 and kept it till the checker flag. In 1912 and in 1914, De Palma won the Elgin Trophy in Illinois, and in 1914 he also won the Vanderbilt Cup in Santa Monica, remarkably finishing the race without a single pit stop, thanks to his ability to look after his tires and saving fuel. He often stated that this was the greatest victory of his career. In 1915, De Palma went back to the Indianapolis 500 with a 1914 4.5-liter Mercedes that had been used during the French Grand Prix that season. A duel between Ralph and Italian-born Dario Resta unfolded, with De Palma leading 132 laps and winning the race. Dario Resta had suffered a puncture while leading on lap 137, which had allowed De Palma to put his rival a lap down. Once again, a connecting rod broke down within miles of the finish line, but this time the Italian-American driver managed to nurse his car and coasted to victory at an average speed of 90 miles an hour. During World War I, De Palma enlisted in the Army Air Service and served as Director of Flying at Daytona Airport. After the war, he continued racing different cars, like the V12 Packard, on which he established a new speed record of nearly 150 miles an hour over 1 mile in 1919 at Daytona Beach. In 1920, Ralph began the year driving for Ballot, a French manufacturer. With the new team, De Palma won the pole for the Indy 500 that year. He had a comfortable 2-lap lead when, with only 13 laps to go, his Ballot stalled, ultimately relegating him to P5. De Palma drove his last Indy 500 in 1925, where he finished 7th. Ralph De Palma was one of the most popular drivers at the beginning of the 20th century due to his good sportsmanship, a quality greatly appreciated by his fellow drivers as well as the public. By the end of his career, De Palma had won an astonishing 2,557 races out of nearly 2,900 race starts, an incredible stat. Ralph De Palma died from cancer in his home in Pasadena, California, in 1956, aged 73.